Hello, Captains. This is the Doctor, and this is another Star Trek Online Starship review. We're going to do the Lukari Hokunn Science Vessel Tier 6 Starship with the Temporal Defense Initiative Reputation and Temporal Specialization. This is the first part of a two-part review we're going to do of this ship. So, get ready, because here we go. Hello, Captains! So that was a great introduction, huh? Here we go. This is the Lukari Hokunn Science Vessel Tier 6 Starship. Now, like I said at the beginning, I am going to break up this review into two full reviews of this ship with two different builds. And there's a reason for that. Number one, the reason is that for right now, I have a very full and complete Temporal Defense Initiative Reputation and Specialization build going on. Now, this build was done before the big space revamp powers in this game, and the second review of this ship is going to be with the Lukari Reputation that I have now finished, and will be able to purchase all of the Lukari gear and put on it for part 2 and do a completely different themed build, a Lukari themed build, and I have not used any of the Lukari components before, so that's going to be something very new to try out for me, and I cannot wait to get to part 2 of that. And I am only now able to do that because I have the full Lukari Reputation opened up. So before we begin, I did do a preview of this science ship previously. I'll post a link in the top right corner. You can check out that preview. I did use the Temporal Defense Initiative Reputation gear in that preview. However, I had not finished my specializations yet, I don't think. But now I have Temporal Specializations also finished, so I'm using that as well. But I figured that with this ship, I did want to break it up into two parts because I'm really happy with what this ship can do using the Temporal Defense Reputation. But then I'm also curious what's going to be like if I now switch to all the Lukari stuff in the Reputation. So if we just go real quick to the Reputation here, what I'm talking about is, of course, the Temporal Defense Initiative Reputation. This is all the gear that I have put on this ship right now. It's the warp core, the deflector, the engine, the shield, the entire temporal stuff that you can get from the Reputation is all put on this ship right now, so I'm reviewing it with that build. And then in the second full review of this ship, I will be doing the Lukari Reputation, which is, where is it now? Where do they put it? Where are you, Lukari? Terran, Iconian, Delta. Oh, I have to scroll down now. There we go. Lukari. It's at the very end. So the Lukari Restoration Initiative, that's going to be the second review of this ship. I have now completed the entire Reputation, so I'm up to, tier 5 of it, and I'm able now, I have a lot of marks, so marks aren't the problem. I might need some of the Protomatter canisters or whatever, but I've got plenty of marks. And now I can buy all the things in here for the space gear. So let me just show you real quick. I can get the piezoelectric focuser. I can get the Polaron, not the cannons, but I'm going to get the beam array, the Polaron beam array. Get the photon torpedo launcher. We'll get the initiative. We'll get the Lukari Restoration Initiative deflector and the engines and the warp core. All that stuff is going to be in the second review, and I do not right now yet have any of it purchased, but I will. I'm going to get it all, and I'm going to upgrade it, and then we're going to do a completely different or updated review of this ship with all the Lukari stuff on it. So that'll be a lot of fun to compare between the Temporal Defense Initiative gear and what the Lukari gear does on this Lukari ship, which should be very thematic because Lukari on Lukari. So I'm looking forward to doing that second part quite a bit. So this first part might not be too long because I did go over quite a bit of this stuff in the preview video. Again, you can go ahead and watch that on this ship, and that'll give you a lot of information right there. This one might repeat a few things, and I don't really think you'll learn a ton of stuff that's new, but it's going to be fun anyway, and I just wanted to show you now this absolutely completed temporal defense build that I have with the specialization. So let me just go up here to skills, and I'm talking about the temporal operative specialization. I now have temporal operative specialization completely maxed out, and I have it set as my primary. So that will just, further enhance the temporal powers and temporal abilities and everything I have going on this ship. One of the cool features of the temporal specializations I like, and I don't know which one it is, continuity maybe? No, yeah, maybe. Continuity, backwards, adjustment period. Whichever one it is, one of these abilities here allows me to actually jump away and restart my ship before I die. So let's say my ship's about to explode. Before it explodes, my ship will actually jump back in time, jump backwards, and stay alive. It won't explode. It kind of like rewinds me for a second and keeps me alive. And it's one of the abilities of the temporal operative, and you may see it. I might try to get in a situation where it's going to blow up my ship so I can demonstrate for you what that ability is like under temporal operative, because it's really cool, and it has saved me quite a bit of times from exploding and dying. There is a lockout once it activates, and then you have to wait for it to cool down. But when it does activate, the first time, it's a really, really cool thing. Anyway, that's an off-topic thing, but something I've really enjoyed from the temporal operative. Anyway, we are talking, of course, about specifically this ship, the Haakon. This is the Lukari Haakon. This ship, if you're not familiar with it, or you haven't seen it in game, or you don't know where you can get it from, well, you can't get it anymore. It was the 7th year anniversary Starship at the beginning of this year, 2017. This was the 7th year anniversary ship that you grinded? Whatever the past tense of grinding is. You grinded for it. And basically this was the ship you got for free. 1,000 vouchers, free ship, that kind of deal. But now that the event is over, the 7th year event is over, it's no longer available, and it probably never will be again, unless someday in the future they decide to put it in a lockbox or something. Otherwise, it is not available right now. So those that were here for the 7th anniversary and able to get the free ship, you have it. And for those that don't, well, you don't have it. But I have really, really grown to like this ship a lot. It's a very versatile, a very maneuverable, and a very fun science ship to play. Very, very fun. I've been using it for a very long time now, and I'm really, really enjoying it, to be honest with you. So this is my main character, the Doctor. The Doctor here is my main character. He is a science character, all maxed out, of course. And like I said, this particular build was made before the big space, power revamp thing they recently had. So that was all set up before then, but it's still a very powerful build and still doing very well. Again, though, these reviews are not about my build specifically, and not about my powers I'm using, and not about the gear I'm using, but specifically more about the ship, how it flies, how it maneuvers, and the unique console and its ability, and then of course the Starship Trait and its ability as well. Those are the things we focus on when we look at a Starship review like this. However, that said, I am happy with the Temporal Defensive Initiative gear on this ship. I think the temporal stuff has fit really well with this science ship. The temporal abilities meld really well with science abilities in whole, is what I've found. So I'm just kind of putting that out there. That's my experiences. That's what I've found out. I'm going to read a little bit on the stats here. Obviously, I can't bring it up in front of me because this is not a C-Store ship. It's not something in the exchange, so you will not be able to see what I'm seeing. I'm reading this from the main Star Trek Online webpage on another monitor. I'll put a link to the stats in the description if you want to check them out yourself. But basically, it's a Tier 6 starship. It was the 2017 anniversary event ship. It has a max hull level of 37,600 at level 60, so not a real high hull. It's got a 1.42 shield modifier, though. That's a really high shield modifier, so your shield capacity can be really high on this ship. You can have an extremely high shield capacity. You got 3 foreweapons and 3 aft. That's very typical for science ship. 3 device slots. You have 1 lieutenant tactical, 1 lieutenant commander engineering or intel, and 1 lieutenant science and 1 commander science. So it is a very, very, very good science ship, and 1 lieutenant universal. Pretty flexible. You only have 2 tactical console modifications, so you're not going to be doing like the most DPS via your weaponry. It has 4 engineering though and 5 science. So a pretty good amount of engineering compared to the science consoles. 13.5 degrees a second. It's very maneuverable. You can see here, look how fast I'm turning this ship around. That's a really good turn rate. Let me go full impulse here. That's my turn rate. So it turns really good. I can turn it around very easily. I find that beams work really well on this ship. Let's see, other stats. Impulse modifier is 0.16. Inertia is 55. It's got plus 10 to shield power and plus 10 to auxiliary power. So you a little more auxiliary there for your sciencey powers. It has the universal Protomatter Field projector, which we'll talk about and I'll demonstrate. It comes with a Braden reconnaissance warp core, which I do not have enabled right now. However, I think in part 2 we will take a look at that Braden warp core. And then it's got sensor analysis because it's a science ship. Subsystem targeting. It's got the ability package. It's got enhanced particle generators, enhanced shield systems, enhanced restorative circuitry, reactive shield technology, and then the Starship Trait is called Protomatter Capacitor, and we will take a look at that. Let's see. That's about all I get right here from the stats. So we'll take a closer look at all the things on it here. The console and the Starship Trait. I just love, first, before we get into all that, I love the visualness of this ship. This is, by the way, the default skin on it, the default configuration. You really can't change much about it, but I think it looks great anyway. It's got a unique design for Star Trek, very unique design. You don't see a lot of triangle ships in Star Trek, so I think this is really, really, really great. It's a proper UFO-looking ship. I mean, it even looks like it's spinning on the top. I mean, it's proper UFO. I like the trails, the contrails behind. That's very, very cool and unique, very colorful. This ship, I mean, it is just beautiful. It really, really is one of the best looking ships in this game, I'm going to say. Even though it's just a science ship, it is a beautiful science ship. I love the looks of this thing. And it does have a unique bridge. In fact, it's got one of the unique looking bridges, most unique looking bridges in this game. And we'll take a look at that bridge, of course. But just a beautiful ship and so easy to point at your target and fire. Use beams on this ship. That's going to be your best bet. But it's so maneuverable and so beautiful. I mean, I love this thing. 125 on my power, 104 shields, 47 engine, 77 auxiliary right now before being buffed. I got red matter to buff my power levels, of course, when I need to. science team and other things to buff all my science stats and all that kind of stuff, of course. All my bridge officer powers are basically standard bridge officer powers. However, it does support intel seating. So when we go to stations here, you'll see that this station here, Lieutenant Commander, does support a intel seating. So you can have intel powers on this thing. And I am using one intel power. I'm using electromagnetic pulse probe. And then 2 engineering powers. So you can mix it up and have some intel powers in there. But that's it, just intel powers. But I think that's good. That's good enough on this ship. With the standard science powers like Gravity Well and Tychon's Rift and, you know, all the other sciencey powers you can put on here, it's pretty good. And then what I'm doing is I'm using the Universal for tactical. That way I get basically 4 tactical slots here. So very versatile. And you can change the seating, you know, in just so many different ways, plus with some intel powers. So that's pretty cool. And I like using the electromagnetic pulse probe. It's pretty cool. With my science powers that I use, it really does, you know, do stuff to the enemy there. It really helps. So let's look at the stats that I'm currently running first. Remember, again, it's not about the build. It's about, you know, the ship itself, but this just shows you what I've got going on here, and you can compare it to your own. I've got 102.68 stealth detection rating, 241% power transfer rate, 45 defense hull is at 54,290, so that's quite a bit above the 37,600 default. Hull repair rate, my shields are at 27,855. That's what I was talking about with this ship. You can have some really high shield capacities with this ship. So that's quite nice. My resistances are around 35, 36. I got a crit chance of 13.3 and a crit severity of 74. So a pretty good crit chance, above 10%. And when I crit, I do about 74% more damage there. So that's cool. And my turn rate is 28.1 degrees per second, very much buffed from the default 13.5. And that's because I am using the Specialization Pilot as my secondary specialization, and that gives me a plus 40% turn rate buff. So keep that in mind. These specializations really can change how your ship maneuvers a lot. I like to use Pilot as secondary on ships just because of that extra turn rate. It's quite nice. But like I said, I got Temporal Operative as primary and then Pilot as secondary. So that's what I'm using today. Now, as for the build, let's just go over it really quickly. Obviously, I said I'm using the Temporal Defense stuff, so here's the Temporal Defense Initiative Deflector Array. Here's a secondary deflector. Of course, the ship does support the secondary deflector, and it's got a slot for it. I do have a Temporal Defense Initiative Combat Engine. I've got the Temporal Defense Initiative Overcharged Warp Core. I've got the Temporal Defense Initiative Regenerative Shield Array. So, you know, all the temporal stuff. I've even got the Advanced Temporal Defense Chronoton Torpedo, the Advanced Temporal Defense Chronoton Beam Array, which is part of the Temporal Defense Initiative Armaments set. So I have that whole armament set. Also, the Chronoton Drive Actuator to complete the entire Temporal Defense Initiative armament set. And I have, check this out, I got 3 of these 360-degree beams in the back. That means I can totally forward fire with this ship, not from the side, but I can forward fire with this ship and get all of my weapons pointed at the enemy at once. My dual beam bank, my single beam bank, and then 3 beams will all fire forward at the enemy. No weapon slot goes unused firing forward. I think that's quite unique, because typically in a science ship or a cruiser, you would want to attack broadside, and you do that so you can utilize more of these aft single beam weapons, right? But sometimes that cuts down on the arc of the dual beam bank. But I get all of it by having 3 360-degree beams in the back. So I can fire forward and every weapon will hit the enemy. Nothing is wasted here. And I think that makes this ship very powerful in doing that. So I have the kinetic cutting beam. I have the ancient omnidirectional beam array. This is an anti-proton build, so it's all anti-proton energy weapons. And then I have the anti-proton beam array. So one is a storyline, beam array, and the other is crafted. So you can have both of those because one's crafted and one's storyline. And so it's all anti-proton damage. Chronoton is anti-proton, so it's the same thing. And all of my weapons, the 3 fore and the 3 aft, all fire on the enemy. Nothing is not used when I'm forward firing. Now, if I fire from the side or the back, that's not the case, because even from the side, I may miss that dual beam because of the firing arc. And from the back, obviously, I wouldn't get any of the front weapons firing. But from the front, all of them fire. I just think that's very cool and unique and worth pointing out about this ship. Other things I have, just to show you, I do have a Plasmatic Leech, even though it's not extremely useful now. It used to be. I still have it, so might as well just put it on there. I have Trillium D. I have a Xenotech Power Flow Module, Power Transfer Rate, and Hull Penetration. I need to upgrade this to Epic, however, I just noticed. I also have Universal Assimilated Module. I need to upgrade this as well, but it's a new Lukari particle converter, basically extra exotic damage and drain, and just a bunch of good stuff there for a science vessel. I've got the Temporal Disentanglement Suite, which adds critical chance and severity based on auxiliary level, and since I have typically high auxiliary levels, that really gets my critical chance and severity up. I also have an exotic particle field exciter, all damage resistance, more exotic damage, more shield capacity, weapon power. Love that. I have the Chronoton drive actuator, of course, from the Temporal Defense Initiative. That gives me that whole Temporal Defense Initiative armaments set. Then this is the console that came with this ship. We'll go over that in a second. And then, of course, the 2 tactical consoles here, anti-proton damage. Only 2, so you're not going to be doing the most damage with your weapons. So your damage is going to have to come in other ways. And I do have a tachyon beam for drain because the Starship Trait on this ship is connected to that. And I'll show you that in a second. But here's the unique console. This is called a Protomatter Field Projector. Now, just having it on this ship gives you Starship Hull Restoration and Starship Shield Restoration. So that's just by putting it on the ship, you get that. Now, when it activates, it's a PBAOE, 3 kilometers, ally plus hull regen plus shield regen. While active, all allies within 3 kilometers gain shield regeneration and hull regeneration. So while this is active, they are getting a regeneration on those things, and they can also, of course, use their hull and shield healing as well to help. So this will really help if you're starting to lose a lot of health or your team is losing a lot of health and you need to buff them. This is used for that. It's a very team-oriented device because it spreads out 3 kilometers. Allies within 3 kilometers receive those benefits. So they do have to be really close to you, but it will help a lot of ships if they're around you. And that's what comes with this ship. That's its ability. It's a healing ability. It's not going to make you do more damage. And it's not going to do some cool, crazy, sciencey thing. It's basically just going to help you and your allies heal. That's what this ship is all about, is healing. Now, it is part of something called the Alliance Multi-Mission Systems. Requires an omnidirectional tachyon wave siphon, an isometric dispersal array, and a radiation bombardment matrix. I've got no idea where to get any of those things, but it does have that set. If you put all of that on there, you get multi-mission advanced systems, and then synergistic alliance technologies, and then multi-mission system synergy. So a whole bunch of stuff there that I've got no idea what any of that is. Let's see, this one is auxiliary power and shield capacity. This one is recharge speed for all multi-mission Explorer consoles. And this one is upgrades multi-mission Explorer console powers. So basically the powers on those things are increased. So, yeah. That's a thing. I don't have any of those parts. I don't have any of those other ships. But it is part of a bigger set, so you can just be aware that if you had this ship and you want to expand on its abilities even more, there are more things you can get, other ships you can get to buff that console and have a completed Alliance multi-mission system set all together. So that's something more that can be expanded on with this ship. Now, one of the other things it came with was a Braden warp core. Where are you, warp core? That's reconnaissance, that's deflector. Maybe this is it? Yes. Braden reconnaissance warp core. Got no idea what Braden means, but here's the stats on it anyway. 17.5 Starship control expertise, plus 5 additional auxiliary power, plus 5 maximum aux power. Add 7.5 of your aux power to your engine power, 100% turn rate while in slipstream. Engine power buff, that's what it does. Not a lot, actually. My temporal warp core is doing a whole lot more. I have amp, for example, on my temporal warp core. And the Braden doesn't have that. Amp is a very good feature that people look for in their warp cores, and that Braden one doesn't have it. It is also part of a set called the Braden Reconnaissance Technology set. You need the covariant shield, the hyper impulse engine, the deflector array, and you get Braden particle detection, Braden engine infusion, and advanced Braden cross wiring. So all of that's different from the Lukari stuff. Looks like aux power setting, engine power setting, impulse expertise, shield loss safeties, decreases the lockout to 45 seconds, removes engine power drain, doubles the damage dealt for Braden cross wiring. So I'm not sure how useful the Braden set is. I really don't know anybody that's using the Braden set. If you are using the Braden set, let me know and what you think of it. I might look at it in the future, but it's not really something that's on my radar right now. I would rather get all the Lukari stuff from the Lukari reputation and try that out first before I try the Braden stuff. But just know that this ship did come with a Braden warp core, so that's the only way to get the warp core part of the set was with this ship. If you don't have this ship, then you're not going to have the warp core part of the ship, which means the set 4 bonus will not work. So that's where the warp core comes from. Let's see, what else? Yes, we've got traits to go over. Starship Masteries. We've got the first one, which is grants plus 15% damage to exotic damage abilities. And then the second one is plus 10% shield hit points. Third one is hull healing abilities and shield healing abilities by 10%. Fourth is more shield regeneration every 6 seconds. And a little bit of shield resistance. And then finally, the trait, what everyone wants to know about, the Protomatter Capacitor. So this is an energy siphon, charged particle burst, and tachyon beam grant a hull and shield regeneration. So in order to activate Protomatter Capacitor, you need to use either the energy siphon, bridge officer ability, or the charged particle burst, bridge officer ability, or the tachyon beam, bridge officer ability. Those 3 abilities will activate Protomatter Capacitor. And when that's done, hitting an enemy with any of those will grant plus 27% shield regeneration for 15 seconds and 26% hull regeneration for 15 seconds. So it's actually very similar then to the Protomatter Field. The shield regeneration and hull regeneration. It's just a lesser version of it, and you have to use a power like tachyon beam to enable it. But every time you do that, it happens. So the cooldown on that is a lot less than the cooldown for the Protomatter Field. So as you can see, this ship is all about the healing. You can heal yourself quite a bit with both of these abilities, and you can heal your allies with the Protomatter Field. So this ship is not about using its powers to do extra damage or that sort of thing. It's about healing. It's a healing ship, at least as far as the trait and the console goes. So you can determine for yourself if that trait would be useful on your ship. Obviously, it's not important on something like an escort. I mean, who's going to use charged particle burst and tachyon beam on an escort? You might use energy siphon on an escort. I could see somebody using that. I don't know that any of those abilities are good on a cruiser except maybe, again, energy siphon. But then, of course, any of those abilities are possible or really good on a drain build on a science ship. So they do fit really well as far as science ships go, like Tachyon Beam and Energy Siphon. I don't think a lot of people even use Charged Particle Burst anymore. I just don't think that's a very well-used power. But the other ones, Energy Siphon I could see, I guess, in all three careers, and then a Tachyon Beam more so for science. But you have to use those abilities, of course, if you want to use Protomatter Capacitor. If you don't use any of those abilities at all, zero, nuh-uh, then this trait is 100% useless to you. So it just wouldn't be worth it. So that's what I'm running. That's what I've got. That's what this ship has as far as powers go. When you activate this field, it's very beautiful. I won't activate it right this second because we're going to go into combat and I'll activate it there. So I'll do that, and then I'll activate the Starship Trait by using Tachyon Beam 2. So just note that I will be using that, and I'll note it when I use it too. The other powers are just based on the Temporal Defense Initiative reputation itself, like Temporal Threading and Temporal Fracture. These are part of the set. This is part of the Temporal Defense Initiative Starship Technologies, and this is part of the Temporal Defense Initiative Armaments. So with both of those, I have both of these temporal abilities going on here, which also help quite a bit. And then, of course, I've got the Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity. That's from the Active Reputation trait. And then I also have the, like I said, Electromagnetic Pulse. That's a Bridge Officer ability. And then all my other science abilities and stuff down here. Gravity Well, blah, blah, blah. So that's the powers. That's what I have going on in the ship. Before we go into combat and check everything out, let us look at the bridge, because I did mention that it's very unique. So we will look at the bridge. Check out this bridge. One of the most unique looking bridges in Star Trek Online. Is that not beautiful? It's very plant-based, that's for sure. I'm guessing that they are actually physically using the plants to scrub the atmosphere. You know, that's how I view it, especially with these plants and these rotating things. They're using plants as scrubbers. That's all that I can think of, is that that's what they're doing, using plants as scrubbers. Which means, boy, wouldn't that be terrible if the plants died. That wouldn't be good for them. I hope they have some other kind of backups. But still, that's pretty cool looking. And then they got plants just hanging on the walls and plants climbing up poles. I mean, very unique, right? And the window, a bit small. You know me, I like a big view screen. I think this view screen could be a lot bigger. But at least it looks like a real window, and I love a real window versus a view screen. So that's very cool. And a big area down here, and you've got workers that can work on these things down here. And it looks like there's no chair. Again, another bridge with no chair. What is it with no chair bridges? Looks like you got some view screens here to work with. You can access library files, duty officers here, and account bank. Can't go anywhere, you're just stuck to the bridge, but it is a very cool looking bridge nonetheless. That is a neat design. Whoever thought up this bridge was very creative in its design. They were very creative, and I like that. A very unique bridge. So, A+ on the bridge. And A+ on the ship design, too. Basically, the aesthetics of this ship, the aesthetics of the bridge and the ship, just a complete A+. I think they did a great job. At this time, there's nothing left to do except to demonstrate the abilities of this ship to you with the temporal defense stuff. And again, once I get all the Lukari stuff, then I will do a second review of this ship with all Lukari stuff. For now, let's go demonstrate our two special abilities, the console and then the Starship Trait. And we're going to do that by joining our good old Japori, just to demonstrate the two abilities. This is just a demonstration of the abilities. Again, that contrail is so beautiful. I love the looks of this ship. It's so great. I'm not even going to go into the ship design to show you that because there's nothing you can do with this ship. It's pretty much just like it is. You can change some of the skin, I think, and that's about it. So you're not going to get a lot of visual changes on this ship unless you put a unique shield or something on it. The first thing that I'll demonstrate when we go into battle here, I will use the tachyon beam to demonstrate the Starship Trait. So I'll activate it, and that should activate the trait. I don't know that it has a visual component to show that it's activated, but I'll do it nonetheless. It'll be hard to see what the changes or differences are, though, because I'm already healed up pretty good, so it's just a little bit of regeneration. So that's something that's very hard to notice or to look at, honestly. But nonetheless, let's go up to the big ship here, and I'm going to hit the tachyon beam. Now look down here for the icon. It should pop up. Look for any visual changes as well. There it was. There it is, Protomatter Capacitor. So that was it. That was it. That was the Protomatter Capacitor. I'm going to fly back out of range here. So I did see a visual component when I enabled it. It had some kind of effect that sprung out from the ship. And then you saw the icon show up down here, and it was definitely on and doing what it was doing, giving me a regeneration. Again, it's not extremely high. It's a plus 27 and then plus 26%, so it's very small, but it is there and it did work. So that's pretty much it as far as the trait goes. Pretty underwhelming, but it is what it is. The next thing I can show you is the Protomatter Field. However, I need some other allies near me, so let's get close to these warbirds here. I'll activate it. This guy needs some healing for sure. There we go. And you can see that it is healing. So check that out. It healed that guy right up. That guy is totally healed now, 100%. He was down quite a bit. So that helped him. And it had a very distinct visual component to it. Very distinct. So that's the console. That's what it does. Now, if I were damaged a lot, I could have also used my healing, like engineering team or hazard emitters or science team, and also healed myself as well. But that just gives you an idea what those two abilities do. They're not overwhelming. It's not an overwhelming ability. Although the Protomatter one here, this one is Protomatter Field is very, very large in its visual scope. It's got a very, very big visual component to it. But you saw how it put like a little shield kind of thing around the little ships and was healing all of those within 3 kilometers. That's the key, though. They have to be within 3 kilometers, which is pretty close. All right, now let's just kill everything here.
Ship is under attack. Target's shield has failed.
So much fun. So much fun. This ship is a lot of fun.
Target's shield has failed.
Everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. Wasn't that beautiful, guys? Wasn't that beautiful? Let's depart system. I didn't even use all my time abilities there. I just used pretty much my bridge officer abilities, but I didn't use all my time abilities. You'll notice I didn't use this one, temporal threading, which is armor penetration. I didn't use that. And this one is exotic damage resistance, control resistance, more aux power, 25% chance plus 40 aux power. And activating an exotic damage ability grants 4% firing cycle haste. So there's a cycle haste chance there too. Physical damage every 1 second for 5.5 seconds, 100% shield penetration, temporal fracture. That's a pretty good ability. So yeah, there are things there I did not use. Used the EMP once. Should have used it more, but anyway, I really didn't need to. I didn't feel like I had to like spam on my powers. I was doing very well anyway. And you'll notice I did use Tachyon Beam quite a bit, and that gives me that little heal. Those little heals. It's not as big as this one, but it's small enough that it can, just help me as I'm playing. And the cooldown on the Tachyon Beam is a lot less than the console one. So let's go do something a little harder now. Let's just go straight into it. Let's do a Borg Red Alert. Maybe we'll get into this really quick here. Did I cancel that or did I do it? I never know with this thing. Join. Okay, I think I'm in it. Yeah, I'm in it. I accepted it, but then you never know when it's actually going to pop, You just never know. So let's wait and see. Maybe it'll go here in a second. Nope, there it goes. See, that's what I hate, is you got that lag time between accepting it and it going into the thing. You don't know when that's going to happen.
And biological distinctiveness to our own.
You never know when that thing's going to pop. Popping like popcorn.
Warning. Ship is under attack.
Look at me, the level, they're 9 above me, so.
Target's shield has failed.
Disarm your weapons. You will escort us to your own world, where we will begin assimilating your culture and technology.
Looks like the Borg are 9 levels above me in this one right now. I'm saving all my big powers for the final boss. Not going to waste them here. This ship just looks so awesome.
You will be assimilated.
Ship is under attack.
Well, that was easy. Now we'll call out all the powers on this thing.
Resistance detected. Unimatrix 0047. 1.
can't even see my ship. Well, that went down fast. This field is very big too. Look at that. I'm zoomed all the way out. The field of that is very big. Okay. So the cooldown, you can see it's 2 minutes on that one. So that takes a little while to reuse that ability. These abilities, this one here, this one takes 5 minutes for the anti-time entanglement singularity. These others are 2 minutes here. This one goes down. You can reuse electromagnetic pulse probe pretty quickly. It cools down real fast. Tachyon beam also cools down real fast. Alright, let's exit the sector, and we're going to do the Tholian red alert. I'll show you a fully zoomed in and zoomed out view at the end of the video here, so that way you can see, however you play, what the ship would look like when you're zoomed in or out. Alright, let's fire up Tholian Red Alert. Hopefully this ability will be cooled down by the time we get to the 2 big tarantulas. That would be nice. Tholian Red Alert. Up there it goes. Hey, we're going to go right into it. I may not get a full cooldown on my abilities. Oh well. We are going to do a couple more things, so maybe I'll get it then.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
They keep calling in mirror universe ships.
Target's shields have failed.
Oop, it teleported me.
4 shields failing. Hull integrity below 75%. Right shield failing.
Ooh.
Integrity below 75%.
Well, I teleported away, survived, and then died again. that was funny. Everybody died on that one. That was a big cluster crap of ships right there. It was a lot of fun, though. Definitely a lot of fun. Okay, there we go.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
I wanted to use my entanglement, but it's on cooldown.
Target's shields have failed.
Everything's on cooldown. Alright, we're going to use Photonic Fleet. I don't use it often, but in this case, going to use it. I want that to work.
has failed.
There we go.
Target shield has failed.
Wow, look at all that. So much going on there.
Target shield has failed.
So much going on with that. So many effects at once. It was just overload. It was just so blinding.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target shield has failed.
That was pretty fun right there. That was a ton of graphical effects at once, that's for sure. Like all powers activate on that one.
Is under attack.
All powers. So one of the things that did happen, it was a little hard to see, but I died in there. Yeah, I died a couple of times, but at one time, like the first time I died, it teleported me away and I survived. But then when I teleported away, the ship caught me in a web and I died anyway. So I actually survived and then died. But I would have survived had it not caught me in a web. But anyway, that was the temporal ability from the specialization that I was talking about that saves you right before you die. It would have worked had I not been captured when I teleported away. But anyway, that's how it works. It's really cool. It's a really cool thing because it keeps you from dying. Let's do a ISA, because everybody does that. We're going to do infected to conduit. We're going to go do an advanced. We're going to pug this. Now it is a pug, so this could go good, this could go bad. And I'm also going to do the other thing. Where is that? Delta Quadrant. We'll go do Argala. We'll end with Argala. If this doesn't pop soon, actually, we'll just end with Argala here, because I've already kind of shown you the abilities quite a bit. There's really not much to them. They're healing abilities. Really not a lot to show when it comes to that, you know what I mean? It's a healing thing, it's a healing ability. Pretty simple. What's going to make or break this ship is going to be your science build. What kind of science powers you use, or intel powers, that sort of thing. That's going to make this ship unique. And then, of course, whatever reputation you decide to go with. And I have found, like I said before, the temporal powers meld very well with science powers. Very well. They just go hand in hand together. They really do. That's why I'm real curious how the Lukari stuff is going to work. I'm real curious, because I've got a really high shield capacity now, though my hull is not incredible. I have a really good shield capacity. You know, am I going to lose that kind of stuff with the Lukari set, with the Lukari build? I don't know. I've never used that stuff before, but I know that stuff's all about healing too. Am I going to lose DPS with it? Possible. I don't know anything. But I can't wait to find out in the second part of this video. Like I said, I don't have any of the pieces yet, so...
Target's shield has
Disarm
failed.
your weapons. You will escort us to your home world, where we will begin assimilating your culture and technology.
Hull integrity below 50%. Rear shields failing. 4 shields failing. Right shields failing.
Why did somebody gravity well all the things to that thing? Please tell me why.
Target's shields have failed.
You will be Borg.
Target's shields have failed.
Somebody gravity weld all the spheres to the transformer. I didn't like that. That was weird.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
You will lower your shields and prepare to be boarded.
Four shields failing. Left shields failing. Right shields failing. Rear
Uh-oh.
shields failing.
There we go. That shows you really good how that ability works. It teleported me away and saved my life.
Integrity below 75%. Target's shields have failed. Left shield failing. Rear shield failing.
You will become one with the Borg.
Target's shields have failed.
You will be Borg.
And that was ISA. Not too bad. I've seen worse runs. So that was okay. Wasn't the fastest, wasn't the slowest. So that's pretty good. You got to see all of the abilities of this ship, pretty much. Working in action there, doing a Borg SDF. And you can see it's very good and very powerful for that kind of thing. Let's do one last patrol just to get it all out of our system. This is the Argala system. This way we can look back at this video when we get to all the Lukari gear on the ship, and we can compare that gear with this gear and see how it did. And I can look back at all my stats that I had here and compare them to what I'll have on the Lukari build. So let's patrol Argala, let's get this out of the way. We'll demonstrate all the unique powers one more time, and then I'll end with my final comments on the ship and show you that zoom in too. Zoom in and zoom out abilities. My things are still on cooldown, but oh well, I don't care. We're gonna start anyway. Got Malon.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
Just show you how ruthless my ship really is. Ha 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 ha. I mean, that was pretty quick. I took them down very quickly. Malon are nothing to me. Alright, deputize me. And it's not a big ship either. It's pretty decently sized.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed. Shields have failed. Hull integrity below 50%.
The battleships are a little harder, but no problemo for me.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed. Hull integrity below 75%.
Where do you think you're going?
Target's shields have failed.
Beautiful. Last group.
Target's shields have failed.
And done. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? What a powerful little ship. Powerful little science ship. Gotta say, I like this ship. Alright, it's going to show you that zoom in and zoom out on everything. So if I'm zoomed in all the way, this is what the ship looks like. So you can get really close to it and fly like where it's right in the middle of your screen if you want. And if you zoom out all the way, it can look pretty small because it's not a huge ship. It's a fairly medium-sized ship, I would say. So you can zoom out and it's kind of tiny. You can zoom all the way in and it's huge. Look, they have it in tow. Let's get close to one of these Bentham ships and you can see the size comparison of this ship. It's not any bigger than the Bentham ships. I mean, it's decently sized, I mean, similar to them. So, not bad at all as far as size goes. It's a very maneuverable size. And it's a very fun ship, and that's kind of how I'm going to end this review, is to say that this is a fun ship. This is a ship I've had a lot of fun flying. I've had it on my science character now for a very long time. And by the way, I have done all of the... Let me go to the cues here. I have done all of the new stuff, the wargame stuff, like Core Assault and Twin Tribulations. I've done the new wargame stuff with this ship, and it's very doable in this ship. The puzzles require maneuverable ships. You really need very maneuverable ships in some of these puzzles, especially the one, you know, where you gotta find the Iconian icons and, you know, get the right pattern and all that. A very maneuverable ship helps with that a lot. So, excuse me. So this ship does very well in the wargame stuff. And then before the wargame stuff, you had the whole Lukari stuff. You had the Zenkethi front and Gravity Kills, and I used the ship a lot in those. And this also worked very well, especially in the Zenkethi front, where you have to take the bombs to the stations to blow them up. With this ship, you can stay healed quite a bit while you're doing that, because enemy ships could be firing on you. But with this ship, you can heal using your Protomatter Field and stay alive. So it actually was very useful for the Zenkethi front using this ship. Healing did help with those two things, and Gravity Kills too. Gravity Kills really hurts you when you get close to that gravity, the gravity well. But with all the healing abilities of the ship, that can really help you. So let's talk about the abilities. The Starship Trait, the Protomatter Capacitor, will help you heal, but the thing is, if it will only work with Energy Siphon, Charged Particle Burst, or Tachyon Beam. So if you use none of those powers, this Starship Trait is not useful for you. But if you're a science ship or a ship that uses any of those powers, it could be useful. It's probably more so useful, however, on a science ship. Now the other ability, which is this one, this can be used, of course, for any ship and will heal and help any ally. But again, it is just a healing ability. It is not necessarily a damage ability to help you do more damage or anything. It's to help you stay alive, which can be very useful as well. So that's what those two abilities do. You can determine if that's useful for you. Otherwise, the ship does have some expandability because it has that whole Braden set. You get the Braden Warp Core with this, and then you can get all the other Braden stuff, and you could try that set. So that's a whole different set you could try out that you can't do on other ships, because this is the only ship that provides you with the Warp Core portion of it. Or you can get the Lukari Initiative reputation stuff and try out a purely themed Lukari build. Or you can get the temporal stuff on this ship, like I have, Temporal Defense Initiative, and have a really well melded temporal powers and Lukari ship. They meld really well together on this stuff. Science and temporal powers meld well together. So those are some options you can do with this ship to expand on, and the console is also expandable because you have this whole multi-mission system set. You can get the other parts too if you get the other ships, put them together, and have another set called Alliance Multi-Mission Systems. And of course, you only get the Protomatter Field Projector console with this ship. So it has some flexibility and expandable options there as well to just further give you different build types you can do and different things with it. It also has flexible seating, and it does have Intel Bridge Officer powers as well. And I have paired it up, as you saw, with the Temporal Operative and Pilot stuff, but you could use Intelligence Officer instead, would work very well on this ship as well. So it's a very flexible and fun ship, and it's aesthetically pleasing. I absolutely love how it looks inside and out, and I like how well it flies. So I give this ship an A+, with the temporal build. It's working really well with the temporal build. Now, in my second full video of this ship, it's going to be all Lukari. I'm going to the Lukari reputation, get everything, upgrade it all to Epic, so I'm not going to review it unless all my Lukari stuff are at Epic. So it's going to be a while before I can get that. That's going to be like later on, I don't know when, a couple of months down the road or whatever. But once I get all that Lukari stuff, I will upgrade it to Epic, and then we will compare it to the temporal stuff, because the Lukari stuff is thematic to the ship. It's a Lukari ship, and this is the Lukari reputation. So I want to get all the Lukari stuff, right? Now I am seeing that it's Polaron based, and I don't know that I really have Polaron weaponry on this ship, or on this character, so I may have to do something different. Either I may have to use this ship on a different character where I have Polaron stuff set up, or I'm going to have to get Polaron weaponry on this character so I can make a Polaron build versus anti-proton to show off all the Lukari stuff. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But I have to purchase all this stuff, and then of course I have to upgrade it because I want it all to be Mark 14 Epic before I do a review on it. So that's quite a bit of stuff to get through and do before all that. But I will have the Lukari Restoration Initiative Starship Technology set. And then I'm also going to get the... Let's find out what the other set is. It's called Lukari Restoration Initiative Armaments. So I'm going to have both of the Lukari sets on here and all their bonuses. But that's going to take me a while to get there. While I have a lot of marks, I don't think I have enough Protomatter canisters. So I'm going to have to do some grinding to get there. But I am going to get there. I'm going to get all that stuff. And there's going to be a part 2 with all the Lukari stuff on this ship. So stay tuned for that. It's probably going to be some months down the road. But that will come eventually. But for now, with this build, I'm going to give this ship an A+. I really like this ship. It's been a very fun science ship. It's right up there with other fun science ships that I've flown in this game. They did a good job with this anniversary ship. They really did. I like this one. Okay, that's my review, everybody. Let me know if you have one of those 7th anniversary ships, 7th year anniversary ships, and you're flying it. Let me know what you think of it and what works well for you. Yada yada yada. And if you don't have this ship, I'm very sorry, but you are not going to be able to get it right now. It was only a 7th anniversary ship. However, there is hope that maybe one day, if there's enough need or whatever, and they just want to put some extra ships in there, you might find it in a lockbox, like an Infinity lockbox or something like that. But you never know. So just keep an eye out for that if you're interested. But for right now, those that got the ship got it, and those that didn't. But there it is anyway. It's a good ship, and they really did a good job with it. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.